I'm a bit late. We're beginning with the Shalom Aleichem found in the Siddur on page number 5. We do have a song sheet this evening. We'll begin with Shalom Aleichem on page number 5. Page 5. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShoret, Malachei Elyon, Mimalach, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimalach, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On page 11, L'chun Arananam, from the Psalms, literally, come on, folks, it's time for us to go out and sing together. L'chun Arananam on page 11. L'chun Arananam, L'chun Arananam, L'chun Arananam, L'Adonai. L'chun Arananam, L'chun Arananam, L'chun Arananam, L'Adonai. Naria, Naria, L'tzur Yishenu, Nikadma Fana B'toda. Naria, Naria, L'tzur Yishenu, Bizmira Naria Lo. L'chun Arananam, L'chun Arananam, L'chun Arananam, L'Adonai. L'chun Arananam, L'chun Arananam, L'chun Arananam, L'Adonai. Naria, Naria, L'tzur Yishenu, Nikadma Fana B'toda. Naria, Naria, L'tzur Yishenu, Bizmira Naria Lo. L'chun Arananam, L'chun Arananam, L'chun Arananam, L'Adonai. L'chun Arananam, L'chun Arananam, L'chun Arananam, L'Adonai. Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector. Filled with thanks, let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Great is Adonai, a greater sovereign than all other deities. God's hands form the earth's deep. Mountain crests, too, are God's work. The sea is God's, for God made it. Dry land was fashioned by God's hands. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai, who formed us. And on page number 17, on the English side, sing to Adonai a new song, for Adonai has wrought wonders. God's right hand and holy arm have brought deliverance. Adonai declared deliverance. As nations looked on, God's righteousness was revealed. God dealt faithfully and kindly with the house of Israel. The very ends of the earth saw our God's saving power. Call out to Adonai, all the earth. Break out in joyful singing. Sing to Adonai to the music of the lyre. Lyre and voices making music together with horns and shofar cries. Trumpet the presence of the sovereign Adonai. Let the sea and all that is in it roar, the earth and all who inhabit it thunder. Let rivers clap hands while mountains sing in harmony. greeting Adonai, who comes to judge the earth, judging the world with justice and the nations with truth. We have one song sheet tonight. Turn to the song sheet. The first piece is by a songwriter, a singer. Her name is Neshama Carlebach. And the key term is Melech Rachaman. Rachaman means compassion or mercy. And the wording here is fairly simple. I think it's a catchy melody. Melech Rachaman, which literally means merciful sovereign. Rachem Aleinu, be merciful, be compassionate over us, upon us. Tov u'meitiv, literally, doer of good and bringer of good. Hidaresh lanu. Hidaresh lanu means seeking it from us. So one definition through this song of what God expects is that we emulate God in the capacity of bringing good into the world. And the last stanza is Shuva Eleinu, which means return to us, Bahamun Rachamecha, with your great and manifold mercy.
Melech Rachman, Rachem Aleinu. Melech Rachman, Rachem Aleinu. Tov meitiv, Hidaresh lanu. Tov meitiv, Hidaresh lanu. Shuva Aleinu b'amor rachamecha. Shuva Aleinu b'amor rachamecha. Melech Rachaman, Rachem Aleinu. Melech Rachaman, Rachem Aleinu. Tov meitiv, Hidaresh lanu. Tov meitiv, Hidaresh lanu. Shuva Aleinu b'amor rachamecha. Shuva Aleinu b'amor
And now on page 21, in the Siddur, page 21. Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavod va'oz, Havul Adonai kavod shemo, Hishtachavul Adonai behadrat kodesh, Kol Adonai al hamayim el hakavod, Hirim Adonai al hamayim rabim, Kol Adonai Koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, Vayarkidem kemo egel, Levanon v'sirion, kemo ven re'emim, Kol Adonai chotzei lavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholel ayalot, vayechesov ye'arot, uv'hechalo kulo omer kavod, Adonai lamabul yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz li'amo yitein, Adonai yavarech et amo v'shalom. And that last phrase, Adonai oz la'amo yitein, takes hold of our ear and our mind and leaves the psalm and finds itself scattered throughout much of Jewish tradition, spanning ever since the 3,000 year ago mark. Adonai oz la'amo yitein, God gives strength to his nation. But it can't be just unbridled strength. There's got to be a means of modulating that strength. It's the last phrase. Adonai yavarech et amo v'shalom. God blesses his nation with peace. Strength, but only with peace, holding strength in check. And with that, we turn back to the song sheet. It's the second piece, and the phrasing comes to us from the daily Amida. The phrase is, V'Yerushalayim ircha, to your city of Jerusalem, O God, return in compassion and mercy. And I'm sure that we've all been noticing over the past days and weeks great challenges and confusion and fear and tension within Israel, across the entire breadth of the land, and also within the city of Jerusalem on many different levels. And so we sing and we pray every single day for something as elusive and essential as knowing that a presence of concern and compassion has come back to us, being confident that a presence of compassion and concern is within our midst. That's what we need to send forth this evening from our little shul in Mobile throughout the entire world, and to Jerusalem and to Israel. V'Yerushalayim.
V'Yerushalayim ircha, o berachamim tashu, tishkon betocha, kasher dibarta. V'Yerushalayim ircha, o berachamim tashu, tishkon betocha, kasher dibarta. B'nei ota bekaro be'ameinu b'inyan olam. B'nei ota bekaro be'ameinu b'inyan olam. V'chisei David avdecha, omer aletoch ha'tzachim. Yain nain 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 nain, yain nain 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 nain, yain nain 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 nain, yain nain 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 nain. Nine, 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 nine. Yai nai 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 nai. Uvenei ota bekaro be'ameinu binyan olam. Uvenei ota bekaro be'ameinu binyan olam. V'chisei David avdecha omer aletocha tzachim. V'chisei David avdecha omer aletocha tzachim. Yerushalayim ircha oberakanim tashu tishkon betocha kasher dibarta. Yerushalayim ircha oberakanim tashu tishkon betocha kasher dibarta. Uvenei ota bekaro be'ameinu binyan olam. Uvenei ota bekaro be'ameinu binyan olam. V'chisei David avdecha omer aletocha tzachim. V'chisei David avdecha omer aletocha tzachim. Yerushalayim ircha oberakanim tashu tishkon betocha kasher dibarta.
L'charodi, page 23, the first three stanzas, page 25, the last three stanzas. Lechadodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad ishmiyanu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem ol tiferet v'litila. Lechad Lechadodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lekrat Shabbat lechuvenelcha ki mekor habracha merosh mikedem nisucha sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lechadodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha kumitzim mitoch hafecha rav lach shevet v'mekabacha v'yachmol alayechem la. Lechadodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. V'hayolim shisa shosayich v'rachaku kol mevalayich yasis alayich eloayich kimsos chatan al kala. Lechadodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Yamin osma tifrotzi v'et Adonai ta'aritzi al yarish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila. Lechadodi lekrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi lekrat kala P'nei Shabbat nikabel. Bo'e b'shalom ateret balach, gam b'simcha u'b'tzahala, toch emunei am segula, bo'e chala, lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela, lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. We are seated. It's well known that the symbolism of the last stanza, Bo'e, O Shabbat, come on in, brings us to our feet. Shabbos is walking in the door. How can we remain seated, just pretending she's not even here? It's a beautiful idea. It captures the fancy. Shabbat's coming in the door. So we look, what does she look like this week? How does she appear? How is she dressed? Which finery is upon her? That's Bo'e v'shalom. And now look at the Psalm for Shabbat herself on page 27. And tonight, I share another thought. Maybe there's an additional reason for standing up, because the opening line of the Psalm for Shabbat is Tov lehodot. It's good to say thank you. Sometimes, and I suppose my eyes and my perspective are a little old, when I look out into the world today, I wonder if people are remembering to say thank you. In greeting, in social exchange, sometimes when I speak with somebody and this person happens to be a little bit younger, I say thank you, and the response I receive is, no problem. Does that mean that it's a problem to receive thanks? God forbid. Is it a problem to say thank you? Oh, heaven forfend. Let us remember that being grateful is important enough for us to stand up and turn around and alter our position. Maybe that's another reason why we stand up to face the door. So tonight we're focusing on the opening phrase, and in a moment, a melody from Nativ, the opening phrase or two of the Psalm for Shabbat. And if you're not familiar with this melody, open your eyes and your mind and be willing to learn a new melody, just focusing on the first few phrases with the theme, the emphasis on being grateful. Tov.
Mizmor shir le'yom haShabbat.
Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Le'hagid b'boker chasercha. Le'hagid b'boker chasercha. Yemunatcha b'leilot, yemunatcha b'leilot. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Le'hagid b'boker chasercha. Le'hagid b'boker chasercha. Yemunatcha b'leilot, yemunatcha b'leilot. Tov lehodot l'Adonai.
And perhaps that's the doorway into becoming a tzaddik. If you look at the conclusion of page 28, it's tzaddik, it's the little red arrow on the Hebrew and the transliteration side. Tzaddik is the righteous person, and from whence emerges righteousness. Perhaps the first element is being humble enough to offer sincere gratitude on every occasion and more. And when you and I achieve that, you and I are grounded enough to be righteous, Tzaddik katamar yifrach, we are as rooted as a tree giving beauty in God's own courtyard. Tzaddik katamar yifrach.
Tzaddik katamar yifrach, ke'eretz Lebanon, yiskech etzuzi, v'dei tadam, techasmos Eloheinu yafrichu, od yenuvun b'seira, tishenim v'rananim, yihu le'ahi, yashar adon shadatzuri v'lo ha'bazah.
We rise to Borchu, page 39a. Baruch hu et Adonai Amavorach. Baruch Adonai Amavorach leolam voed. We're seated. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. El chai v'kayom, tamidim lo chalen olam voed. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Page 40. The little red arrow. This is the Chatima. If you're ever wondering what the main idea of a bracha is, a blessing in the Siddur, look for the last line or two, and that will summarize the entire paragraph. Do not ever withdraw your love from us. Baruch atah Adonai, who loves the people of Israel. So the main focus of this bracha is God's love for us. Va'avatecha al tasir mimenu la'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Page 41. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al vavecha V'shinantam labanecha, v'dibartabam, b'shivtecha b'beitecha, u'v'lechtecha v'aderech, u'v'shachbecha v'kumecha, u'kishartam la'ot al yadecha, v'hayulet totafot beninecha, u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. Continuing in silence on page number 42. Adonai Elohechem emet. Top of page 44. Umalchuta beratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe u'Miryamu v'nei Yisrael lecha anu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam mi chamocha poelim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh norah Tilot Osefele Malchutecha Ra'uvanecha Bokea Yam Lifnei Moshe Zeli Anu V'yamru Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed V'ne'emar Kifada Adonai et Yaakov Ugalo Miyar Chazak Mimenu Baruch Ata Adonai Gaal Yisrael. I'm translating right now, and I want to offer a thought on the first two lines at the top of page 45. Hashkivenu literally means, God, put us down on the bed, horizontal. Place us on our bed. And the tone is almost that of a parent placing an infant into a crib. That's Hashkiv. God, place us. Eloheinu l'shalom, you are our God, and God's defined as the God of shalom. So the picture of being tucked into bed prayerfully is that we're being tucked in with peace. But it's not enough to be tucked in with peace to Alavai, hopefully sleep through the night. It's the next line. V'ha'amidenu malkeinu, and our sovereign, literally stand us up. And what's the word? L'chaim. And we all know what l'chaim means, to life. So the hope for this prayer for all of us across the world is not only to have a peaceful night's slumber, but to be confident that we're going to be getting up all right on the morrow. But it's not just for me or my family or you or your family. It's for everyone. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. The top of page 46. V'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti la'olam, oti la'olam, oti le'olam. V'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, asa Adonai, et hashamayim v'et haaretz, v'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, v'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Yitkadol v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yom t'vrei b'chayechon, v'yom echon, v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, bagala, bagala, v'zman kariv, v'imero, amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach, la'olam li'olmei omaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'tama v'yinaseh v'yidhadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei d'kedusha b'rechu le'la mikor b'chata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'yolma v'imero. Amen. We rise the evening Amida, found on pages 47 through 52, the traditional text before us, or an opportunity to offer a personal and silent private prayer or reflection. The concluding bracha of the Amida every evening is the Shalom Rav. It's found here in the Siddur on page 51. It's found here in the Hebrew, the transliteration, and also the translation. May there be peace, great peace throughout the entire world for Israel and everyone. And we have a melody here, Shalom Rav on page 51.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. 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 Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Tasim le'olam, tasim le'olam, tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha.
May there be peace. Some of you remember that when I was born as a child, I was born in High Point, North Carolina, and my first exposure to synagogue life, living in those days, was a traditional synagogue. And some of us remember going back the years 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s. Traditional synagogue meant that the front third or half of a given sanctuary had separate seating, men on one side, women on the other, but no mechitza down the middle, no partition. And then in the third or the half, the rear of the sanctuary, there was mixed seating. And even until the 80s and maybe the 90s, there were still a fair number of traditional synagogues dotting the landscape of the U.S. And I remember growing up in the midst of that, the 60s and the 70s and 80s, when the biggest issue was, do women count? And how shall women count? And I remember coming here, and although I was from a traditional synagogue in Connecticut, when I came here, already the decision had been made that women were going to count. The story that was given to me when I came here was that women began to count in the mid-'80s. Not because of theological or ideological issues or philosophical quandary being resolved, but because many men just weren't coming to synagogue, especially Saturday morning, and we needed a minyan. And no pun intended that women made up the minyan, because minyan comes from the Hebrew word limno, which means to count. Minyan means accounting, a quorum. But I remember during those years when there was a lot of discussion across the American landscape, a lot of conflict. Some people left synagogues. Some synagogues even split over the issue of who shall count and who shall not. And thankfully, it didn't apply here. Just think that a house of worship would split over the term who will count and who will not count. And even within American Jewish life today, on a variety of other levels, those issues are still there. Who counts and who doesn't count, but looking beyond synagogue life and Jewish communal life. All across America, in many ways, Americans are still beset by the great question of who counts and who doesn't count. And the mere phrase, as you hear it, should bring knives to your chest and to your stomach. Who counts and who doesn't count. Who literally will count and who will not count. And that's on my mind because of a phrase in tomorrow's Torah reading. Tomorrow's Torah reading is one in the center of 5 Torah readings that talks in one way or another about the creation of a portable room. It's called the Mishkan. 2 weeks ago and last week, the design phase are laid out. A little bit of tomorrow, design phase spelled out. Next week and the following week, the construction phase of building a portable room and traveling with that portable room. The Israelites left Egypt, and they've been standing out of the base of Mount Sinai, and they've been designing and building a portable room, a tent, for almost 13 months. And this room is going to accommodate God. But what's striking to me is in last week's and the week before and then tomorrow and next week, 5 parshiotis made very clear that everybody counts. Males and females alike over the age of 20, all adults. Males and females alike. And if you can weave, or you can sew, or you can paint, or you can dye, or you can fabricate metal, gold, silver, bronze, if you can make loops and hooks and curtains, everybody comes. Males and females alike. All people with all skill levels are to come and bring what he or she can manufacture, can touch. And if you can't sew or weave or paint or dye, then you carry stuff that somebody else can bring. Everybody counts. And that's how this portable room that's going to be leaving Mount Sinai and traveling with us for about 350 years, maybe 400 years, on into the promised land in the future, brings God throughout the entire nation of Israel, because everybody counts. And then it must have been thinking about me, and if you can't count, you bring a small piece of silver, because I can't draw with a ruler. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. I can barely pick up a load that somebody else is going to manufacture a beautiful piece of artwork with, but I can bring 12 grams of silver. And at the going rate, I checked this morning, that's about $4. I don't know what the conversion rate was 3,300 years ago and how much 12 grams of silver would have stepped back an average peasant, but 12 grams, half a shekel, is not that much. Anybody should be able to afford 1 cup of coffee to say, I belong. Everybody counts. And the phrase in tomorrow's Torah reading is that the wealthy person doesn't bring more than half a shekel, and the poor person doesn't bring less, because everybody counts equally. And everybody should be able to say, if I can't paint, if I can't sew, if I can't weave, then I'm going to count in this method. And when everybody counts, God is in the room. But if one person is left out, then there's no room for God. If one person doesn't count, there's no room for God anywhere in this portable tent surrounded by a wilderness. If one person doesn't count, then God's not here. And you and I can take this message from Judaism and bring it into the world. I'm not saying converting. I'm not saying preaching. I'm saying testify to the power that everyone counts. Because when one person doesn't count, everybody's excluded, and there's no place for God. The literate world looks at our tradition, the Tanakh and the Torah, as being its undergirding. This is the message that you and I can take from 5 Torah readings that are, you might say, extremely detailed. It's like reading a blueprint and maybe not super exciting. But the message is that if one person doesn't count, there's no room for God. That's a message that we should be proud of, to share with the world that everybody counts. We rise the Aleinu, page 56. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, V'anachnu korim hamishtachaviim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlochim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yoser haaretz u'moshav yekaro b'shamayim mimal u'shchinatu zo Begavei meromim Hu Eloheinu Einod Emet Malkeinu Efezulato Kakatu B'Torato V'yadata Yom V'Shevota Elvavecha Ki Adonai Elohim B'Shamayim Mimal V'al Haaretz Mitachat Einod Kakatu b'Toratecha Adonai yimloch l'olam voed v'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad U'Shemol echad. In a moment, Mornis Kaddish on page number 58. On this Shabbat, remember with great love Rebecca Rib Skirwich, Rose Abrams Lubell, Bob Topper, Eli Schneiderman, Esther Loeb, Helen Williams, Herbert Moore, Miriam Mitzenmacher, Dr. Norman Lichtenfeld, Sarah Einstein, Ben Hershkovitz, Herbert M. Zuckerman, Kenneth Siegel, Marvin Zivitz, Morris Meyer, Morris Plotka, Solomon Sadowski, Annie Reed Charnetsky, Harry Duberman, Sam Perloff, Joseph Feinstein, Rose E. Powell, Leah Berger, Marilyn Lubell, Max Wilson, Rebecca Perloff, Sydney Letterman, Annie Rips, Chenya Friedberger, Miriam Jett, Elizabeth Cohen, Esther Robinson, Rose B. Powell, Eva Dunitz. We're remembering Wendy Fastman, Frida Maisel, Michael Miller. Are there any other names to mention this evening? Emily Moore. Perhaps those at home have a name to share as well. Those so inclined are invited to rise for Kaddish on page 58. I'll bring up page 58. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, amen. Be'olma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imeru, amen. Yehei shmei rabba mivarach la'olam ololmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shmei dekudisha b'richu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ba'alma v'imeru, amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May there be peace for all who remember in sorrow their loved ones. Everybody counts. May everybody remembered as a source of bracha, a source of blessing. We'll conclude in just a moment with a new, different melody of Oseh Shalom. Reminders, of course, Shabbos morning, davening tomorrow morning, Havdalah on Zoom tomorrow night, and tomorrow night we lose sleep. It's annual clock changing party night tomorrow night. Already. It's annual, so let's all stay up till 3 in the morning and change it back to 2 Saturday night, approximately.
Bring forward.
Don't we lose an hour?
Yeah.
We lose. We change it.
It's the last time though.
To 3. You changed it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to stay up until 3 or 2 or whatever it is. But anyway, we lose it. So lose your hour. So be careful. Here we go. We're concluding with Shalom Rav, and then we'll say Shalom. Then we'll make Kiddush.
Oseh shalom bimrama, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, behakol ve'akol Yisrael, be'imeru, amen. Oseh shalom bimrama, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, be'akol ve'akol Yisrael, be'imru, imeru, amen. Oseh shalom bimrama, hu Aleinu. Ve'akol, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom b'mrama.
We're making Kiddush. If you have wine or challah at home, if you feel free to join in with us, perhaps pour a glass of wine and have a piece of bread at the ready. We're making Kiddush and Motzi in just a minute. So, good Shabbos, we're glad you're here.